Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're having a good one today. I'm Nick, and today I'm continuing our Terminator review series with the second entry, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And I am not alone in this review series, guys. Go check out Jason Nike's channel, The J-Man's Movie Cave. I'll put a link to his review in the description, guys. Go check it out after you're finished watching mine. And also, you can go ahead and follow me on Instagram and Letterboxd if you want to follow me there. Links to those will also be in the description. Let's get into Terminator 2. Terminator 2 Judgment Day was released in 1991, stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, Edward Furlong, and Robert Patrick, and was directed again by James Cameron. So this is a classic that was always playing at my house during my whole childhood and growing up, and even to this day I still watch this and Terminator 1 all the time. So the plot to this one is about a cyborg, identical to the one who failed to kill Sarah Connor, must now protect her 10-year-old son John from a more advanced and powerful cyborg. Now guys, this is the rare instance where a sequel is on par quality-wise with the original. It doesn't happen too often, but these are one of those rare occasions. And for most cases, most people say that T2 is a superior film. It's the fan favorite. And it was just a real interesting way to tackle the sequel by essentially taking the same concept of the original film and flipping it completely on its head. We get Arnold back as the T-800, but this time he's sent as a protector, and he's not the villain in this one. And again, it's just a genius screenplay that not too many films will be able to pull off, especially considering all the time loop stuff and that. It's hard enough to come up with a story that won't screw up any of the timelines or whatever, right? But this one just fits perfectly right beside the original. And it's really impressive how the story is still clear and it doesn't create any plot holes. And the whole side plot with Miles Dyson using the parts from the last Terminator in the original film to eventually create Skynet is just mind-blowing, how the whole time loop comes back in an even bigger circle. Or the fact that John sends back the T-800 to protect himself. Like, that adult version of himself is protecting the young version of himself. And it's just so unique and impressive. And John Connor is played by a young Edward Furlong, and I think he completely nails the role. His performance is perfect. I get the sense that he is an actual kid in real life. Like, he's really well written, but his performance is also on point. And John's kind of a bad kid, but he didn't grow up with a father. Obviously, Kyle Reese died from the first movie, and his mother Sarah Connor was only around in his early years, and then she got shanghaied in like an institution with high security. So he grew up with these foster parents who the dad doesn't really give a shit about them. Neither one of them really care about him. So he goes off and does like bad things like stealing or like hacking into ATM machines, which is really cool, by the way. But deep down, he's a really good kid. And he grew up with his mom telling all these stories about Judgment Day and preparing him for the day when it comes, right? How he has to be the savior of mankind. And just imagine what all that would do to a 10-year-old in his brain, right? And but then when his mom got taken away and he was told that she was completely crazy, he just thought she was crazy. This must have been all just bullshit that she's been feeding him all these years. And it has quite the psychological effect on him. And when the T-800 does show up to protect him, he doesn't know what to believe. He's like, my mom was right all these years. And he's confused, but I think he's relieved that his mom's not actually crazy. And him and the T-800 form a true bond together throughout this film. And that's really the saving grace of this film. It's the biggest highlight to me. Just like how in the first movie, the biggest highlight was probably the romance between Sarah and Kyle and their relationship. Well, this time it's focused more on John and the T-800. The T-800 is obviously played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he owns the role again, going from villain to good guy, and it's flawless. And he really like becomes a father figure for John since he didn't have a real father. And that's what I'm saying, they form this almost father-son relationship, and it's a true bond. And throughout the runtime, John teaches them how to become more human through catchphrases and teaching them that you don't have to kill people, you just hurt them if you have to. And just trying to be more human and less machine. Even though he's incapable of becoming human, he makes him as human as possible throughout this runtime, especially near the end of the film. he basically gets it, what it's like being human and having emotions. He learns cool phrases like "hasta la vista, baby" and "no problemo," and or little things like finding keys under the visor instead of breaking the starter ignition or whatever on the vehicles, like little things like that. And it pays off by the end of the film because you see that he's learning, and it just makes him more of a loving character even though he's robotic. And we got Linda Hamilton returning again as Sarah Connor, and I think this is the most overlooked character in the entire film. You never hear too many people talking about Sarah Connor when they're mentioning T2. They're always talking about either the T1000 or the T800 or John Connor himself, right? But man, does she give the best performance I think in the entire film. This character is just so broken down and beat in this film, from being told that everything she's known was a lie and that she didn't really experience the things that she did, even though deep down she knows what she's seen in the first film. And being in this institution on high security, not being able to see her son John must be the worst thing ever, especially knowing what's to come. And she tries to make the psychiatrist in that believe that she's better now and that she didn't believe everything, but deep down she still knows Judgment Day is coming, and the psychiatrists and that aren't buying it from her either. They think she's just playing along so she can get out, which is exactly right. And Sarah has become the new badass in this film. Like, she took over the role of Kyle Reese. She's the soldier now. She gives the crazy dialogue like Kyle did, and it's just an awesome transition from Kyle to Sarah in this film. And just the look on her face is so priceless when her son and Arnold show up to break her out, and she thinks that that's the T800 that's sent to kill her. It's the same type, but this one's rewired to be good, but she has no idea. So, but the fear in her eyes and that when she sees it it's just priceless. And lastly, we got our villain, which is the T1000, played by Robert Patrick. And it's funny because he looks so puny and small and just kind of harmless compared to the giant T800, you know, and bulky. But this guy is way more menacing, and really you'll find out throughout these films they could never top the T1000. He is just a complete badass threat. He's extremely dangerous. He's made of liquid metal. There's really not many ways to kill him. You can shoot him, he just heals right back over again. They tried freezing him at the end of the film, which only temporarily slows him down. Fire doesn't stop him, he'll just melt right back together. You essentially need to put him in molten lava. That seems to be the only way to really kill him, and that's what they have to do at the end of this film. And on top of all of that, he's a shapeshifter. Anything that he comes in contact with that's around his size, he can turn into them. Like any person, the floor, the wall, he can disguise himself as those things. So he is a major, major threat. Looking back at the original film, how menacing Arnold was as T-800, you don't think they could really top that, but they certainly did with this film. The T-1000 is an unstoppable force, and yeah, they just really upped the ante on this one. Now, the horror in this film has been dialed back to a minimum. We still get glimpses of it here and there, but it's not like the tone of the first film. This one, they dial back the horror, but they up the action like 3 times, and they insert a little bit of comedy throughout the film, but it always works. It never takes away from the thrills or the action. I do kind of prefer the darker tones of the original film, but for what they went for in this one, it just really worked. And the action scenes in this film are some of the best the genre has to offer. They're all iconic, they're memorable, they're fun and thrilling and engaging. One scene in particular is the whole chase scene at the first, where John's on his dirt bike trying to get away from the T-1000, who's in the big transport, and then Arnold shows up, the T-800, with his motorcycle. It's just an awesome chase scene. All the way to the asylum where they're breaking Sarah out. That's another awesome little action scene. We get one of the coolest shootouts ever at the Cyberdyne facility when all the cops show up and Arnold hauls out the minigun. So cool. And finally, the whole end chase scene that leads up to the smelter. That is just so iconic and awesome. Like, this film, the action is top notch, and it couldn't be any better. And action aside, this film deals with so many layers. Like, it's literally like an onion. I mean, it's layered with commentary on family, guidance, fitting in, survival, There's just so much to unravel in this film. It's rich with themes all the way throughout. And T2 has so much heart, especially in the final act when T800 has to say his final goodbyes to John. It gets very emotional, and it makes you feel sad for a robot. Like, how many movies can pull that off? And that's due to brilliant screenwriting, performances, everything all together just makes it work, and you actually feel for the cyborg. And at this point, James Cameron has become a well-known director, very experienced. He's gotten better with his camera work, his shots, his lighting, especially in the dark scenes in this film. All the lighting, it has that blue tint that like Dean Cundey used to do, and I just love it. Now moving on to the effects, and the effects are some of the best effects ever made. This is 1991, and somehow the CGI still looks just as good today as it ever did. There's movies that come out nowadays that has worse CGI than this. It's that impressive. And the practical effects that they use are great as well, especially like the whole apocalypse dream scene when the Sarah's having that like nightmare and you see the skeletons hanging onto the fence and that. Or like even if we're talking about the T1000, like the way he, like when he's frozen and he breaks off into pieces, like slowly breaking off, that looks really cool too. And another thing is when the T800 shoots the T1000 with the grenade launcher and it like splits them, and he starts making these like crazy noises, like these monster noises, like when he's splitting that. That reminds me of The Thing, and I was wondering if James Cameron was inspired by that, because this guy like can split in like weird ways and that. He is a shapeshifter, something like The Thing, so you never know who he turned into next. So I think that might have been a little bit of an inspiration for this film. And the score and the soundtrack are both fire in this film. The score is, it takes like the theme from the first movie, and I feel like it just like enhances it and remasters it, and this makes it sound all around better. We get some Guns N' Roses in here with You Could Be Mine. We get some Bad to the Bone by George Thorogood. Some great tracks in here too, which wasn't really present in the first film. And all in all, this should have been the end of the franchise. It just wraps up the story so nicely. It doesn't screw with any of the plot beats or anything from the original. It does its own thing and continues the story perfectly. And this is just an amazing, phenomenal film. But you know how Hollywood is. Instead, we get 4 more entries after this. But if I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this review and rate Terminator 2 Judgment Day, I'm going to have to give it a rating of 10 out of 10. That's right. My second 10 out of 10 in a row, and the second ever on the channel. This is another masterpiece, guys. And to me, this is probably the best sequel ever made. So that's it, guys. Those are my thoughts on Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Let me know down below what you think of this film. Do you find it better than the original, or do you think that this one is the best that they ever made? Or maybe you think some of the later sequels are better. I'd like to hear that down below in the comments section, guys. And that's it for today. Thanks for watching.